Serious question. Do you still go by Gio or do you go by Coffee Feed?
This is Gio.
Just making sure.
So they definitely all.
Gio Fillari.
In the coffee world, he is known simply as Coffee Feed, the name associated with his Instagram handle. If you follow the world of specialty coffee, then certainly you are familiar with his work, or should I say, brand. You see, Gio doesn't have a coffee background. He's never worked inside of a roastery, never pulled a shot of espresso, and most certainly has never poured anyone an iced coffee. Gio sorta just shows up at coffee shops to drink coffee. Occasionally, he contributes his time to the industry, sharing the stories of our community and putting tiny little shops like mine on the map as a guest contributor for the online publication Sprutch. And when he's not doing that, he's just another one of these cool shoe people working for one of the big brands here in town. My name is Angel Medina. I am a lover of coffee, mezcal, and anything properly deep fried. In 2017, I quit my daytime job to pursue my passion for coffee. Since then, I've opened 4 cafes and 4 restaurants, including the beloved Repubblica. In addition, I've spent the last year writing about culture, community, and food. All so that I can share with you the stories of the people reinventing and reimagining the future of this beautiful city. People who look, speak, and sound like me. These are their stories. I think I met you in 2017, and I recall because, and correct me if I'm wrong, Coffee Feed used to be, and still is, it was a very approachable thing that you started. And when I say approachable, I mean like you would go into coffee shops, you would take pictures of the place, and you would write 3 things about them that were like the highlights, right?
Yeah.
Like BIPOC owned, known for their pour-overs, great outdoor seating.
Yeah.
And it was the nicest and friendliest way that you can review somebody, I guess, without having to review them.
Yeah.
How did that turn into Coffee Feed now?
I mean, there's still definitely elements of it where, I mean, at the end of the day, like I'm bridging the gap between people and coffee shops. Like that was the goal of it because I wasn't from here. So the way that I figured the best way to kind of get the lay of the land is just visit coffee shops.
Right.
And also, I was unemployed, and I needed to get out of the crib. So I wanted to go to coffee shops to where I could look for jobs and, be that guy who's on the laptop, look like they're working. But I was not working. I was looking for work. And then what it turned into is just from visiting coffee shops and then talking about it is really just talking about the coffee community and how it's very similar to how other industries are, how there's the pros and there's the cons, there's a sense of community. And I think just trying to bring in that casual coffee drinker or the non-coffee drinker into the world of coffee.
What was it that drew you to coffee, especially in this city?
So I think about like when I first got into coffee, my father's Sicilian, we were drinking espresso growing up in the crib. I was drinking it at a very young age that I probably shouldn't be drinking, but it's
all normal.
It's super normal. Italian culture, like at the end of dinner, like, oh, you want a little espresso to get the digestion process going? Absolutely. So being a middle schooler, an elementary school kid, getting some espresso before school, probably not the best thing.
What is it that makes Portland different as far as this coffee scene than the rest of the country?
The volume of quality coffee shops, I would say, or just the volume of specialty coffee shops.
In the city?
In the city.
Over the last 4 years, I've seen, and we go back to talking about Coffee Feed, the Instagram account, to where you are now, right? This is going to sound crazy, but the way that I see you and the way that I think most people see you is as you're an international coffee professional. And what I mean by that is that you attend these events, people know you for having your own take on coffee, but you're not a barista, you're not a roaster, you're not a coffee shop owner, you're not even a judge. How did that all come about? How did that like that type of respect? How do you earn that? Or do you think you've earned it at this point?
There's definitely some imposter syndrome sometimes where I'm coffee, where I say like I'm coffee adjacent, right? Because I'm in this coffee media.
Adjacent is so good.
Yeah,
That's
you
good,
know what I mean? Like I'm in this media space where it would be like, you kind of toe that line where it's almost like sports reporters where it's like, yo, like,
oh, that's
like,
good.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like there are some reporters and there are some people, like there's some analysts on TV that talk about the game, that has played the game, that are authentic to the game. But then there are also those who are like old and white and then have, you know, never competitively picked up a basketball or a football, and they want to talk about sports. So in the coffee side, I try to authenticate myself as much as possible by elevating others and telling the stories of others and actually understanding and doing research on the things I talk about or post. So like when I go to these shops and talk about 3 nice things or 3 things, period, it's because I go to that shop or I visit that shop and I frequent the shop, you know? And it's like, and I judged.
Specialty coffee. That's what we're talking about here. The stuff that my dear friend Gio here loves so much. It's the same stuff that motivated me to quit my daytime job and dive headfirst into this industry. This light roasted, single origin, artisan, third wave, whatever it is that you wish to call this thing, it's very different from the stuff that people like myself and people like Gio grew up on. I have a love-hate relationship with it all. I love the attention to quality, which makes for a stark difference between this stuff and the stuff we drank growing up. The part, however, that I dislike so much is just how white this industry is. Now, hear me out. I'm not just talking about the whitey whites working behind your favorite coffee bar. I'm talking about the industry as a whole. The buyers who fly down to places in Asia, Africa, Latin America, South America. The Q graders who set the rule on what makes one coffee better than another. The coffee roasters who have assigned stigmas to what flavors pertain to which countries. The cafe owners who hire predominantly aesthetically fitting baristas. And of course, the publication with mostly white writers who decide what is cool, what isn't, where you shouldn't be drinking your coffee, and who you should be drinking it from. Yes, I know some of you are gonna think I'm making a big generalization, and that's okay, really. As someone who got into this industry in hopes of leveling the playing field, I can tell you, specialty coffee is too white. Just remember that this is an industry that has always relied on the cheap labor of people from the continents of Asia, South America, Latin America, and Africa. Without them, we would not have this industry. So, is it too much of me to ask to have more specialty coffee professionals that reflect the origins of where this coffee comes from? Just a thought. Back in, when was it that you started as a contributor for Sprudge?
So the first thing I did actually was I did a coffee takeover for the city of Portland, where I visited different coffee shops.
A takeover, for those that don't know, it's take over their social media account.
Yeah, so they essentially throw me the password to Sprudge.
Right.
Or
what is it?
They change it all the time. So anyway, but they're like, hey, see what you've been doing. Let's have you visit like a few coffee shops in Portland and then write about it. Similar to what you're doing now, just do it with us for a few days. Perfect. And then from there they said, you did a pretty good job on what you focused on. Writing is strong. Have you thought about being a writer before? I said never. And then perfect, want to start writing for us? I'm like, all right, let's do it. And then I started writing for Sprudge.
Your first pieces, from what I recall, were centered around BIPOC owned shops, which is like 2 of them at the time in Portland.
So
now there's 4. I'm just kidding. There's more than that.
It's crazy. It's climbing up. So slowly but surely.
What was it that motivated you to write those pieces? Especially about I had this conversation recently with Sam Bacall, who was a former writer for the Oregonian, and she shared how at one point, maybe not with malice, but everybody was so careful on the topic of race, of culture, of these things. But like, if you were going to write about a restaurant, you can write about the food and its origins, but not go too deep into into that thing. With coffee, I don't know why, but I know it seems like 100 years, but this was only 4 years ago. It wasn't until Sprudge that they started really going this deep into it, especially with you writing about these things. Wait, did you have any limitations at that point to write, or were you just
No, it's,
free to write?
Free to write
About everything.
I can't really stress enough how Sprudge has really helped me, like, when it comes to me and how deep I've gotten into the coffee community.
Same.
So they let me cook, and I mean when I have an idea what I want to write or like some thoughts, they will like, yeah, man, let's run with it. Or I mean, for the most part, I mean, as long as it makes sense for both parties, but like when it comes to like some ideas that I have or who I want to write about or what I want to do on a takeover, for the most part, they're like, hey, like we trust you, like you have a good eye for that, so go ahead and just obviously like let us know what you're going to say for approval. But they are amazing and they're phenomenal partners, and a lot of it's just for conversation. Like I sit down with Jordan at Sprudge and Zach as well, as far as like, yo, like this is what I'm thinking, or like what I want to start talking about and writing about, and then just go from there.
Wow. You've written quite a few pieces since.
Yeah.
But there's still a focus on the BIPOC community.
Yeah.
Is that intentional?
Very intentional.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I see me being a professional in Portland.
Right.
As a severe minority. I mean, when we think about how white the city of Portland is, demographically by numbers, I mean, I see the same thing in coffee shops where there's only a handful of, you know, BIPOC coffee shops, and or owned coffee shops, right? So, I mean, at the end of the day, like visibility is one of the most important things I feel. Right. Where we are telling these stories and we are putting it on the forefront, so everyone is aware of not only the situation but like what's available to them.
Like, how has that changed for you? Like the way that people approach you when you show up at a bar now?
I mean, it kind of depends on where I'm going, right? Because some places, like, everyone's like, say, Gio, what up? Like, you know what I mean? Or Coffee Feed, what's up? Like, I mean, that definitely happens sometimes, but there's also some times where I'm just walking right into a coffee shop and they're like, hey, what can we get you? Yeah. Hey, what's going on? And I'm cool with that. There was a couple times where
people explaining to you the menu and how to order?
All the time, like, right? Okay, when you want a small, you know, that's like 8 ounces. So if you want like a medium, that's usually 12 ounces.
You sure you don't want sugar?
Yeah. You sure you want sugar?
I'm good. Just give me like a drip coffee.
Yeah, like, can I just get like, not vaniilla or anything, or like maple, or no, just black coffee, please, or just an oat latte. Only hot coffee. Hot coffee, by the way.
Of course. Is
there a reason why I don't like iced coffee?
No. Is there like any other way to drink?
Oh no, there's not. I mean, there is, but you know, at that point, like,
that's strange to me.
You know, I try not to be a snob about coffee at all.
I don't think that's being a snob. That's just like, it's like the argument with like that Chicago folks make about hot dogs, right?
Yeah,
like when you're like, hey, you're gonna add ketchup, and they look at you funny, like, what the fuck is wrong with you? That's how I feel about coffee, and I think you're the same way. Or
like when they talk about like deep dish pizza in Chicago, and it's like, you know, it's a different category of pizza. Like it's like it's like almost like lasagna at that point, right? But yeah, so I'm on this. I like iced coffee sometimes, but I never really drink it at all just because it's watered down. Right. Anyway. I think like some of the biggest compliment is when people aren't talking about necessarily about me, but just talking about the work. Like, hey, I saw your interview with Jimmy Butler. That was amazing. Right. Or hey, I saw you write up about like La Perlita, or like which was amazing. Right. Or
the Deadstock piece. It was, at the time, it was just. Yeah. I think it was the first time that somebody had actually written outside of the cliches.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think just talking about just not, because it's very easy to, like, exactly, Deadstock, Concourse, Ian Williams, that's my guy. I mean, instead of like talking about, you know, like, oh, like it's a basketball themed coffee shop, and it's a footwear themed coffee shop, like he used to be at Nike, and like that. Right. These are all very true things, but like, what about, you know, let's talk about them. Let's talk about their crew, their staff. Right. How it's predominantly black and brown folks. Or let's talk about like why they want to create a safe community for people.
I think that's important, right? The representation piece, because for forever, and I used to have this rule, and I still have this rule, where if anybody's going to write, I either have to have a relationship with them if they're outside of being BIPOC folks. Yeah. Because I often feel like they look at you like people at a museum. You know, when you get the snobs at a museum looking at a piece and they start giving you their whole what it means to them. Yeah. But they're looking at it from a very I don't know. It's strange. I felt like a lot of interviews were like that, where they were just like,
Yeah.
the black man and his struggle.
Yeah, it's real shit. Because like at the end of the day, like, because when after that interview, they feel more empowered and emboldened to have broader conversations among their peers,
right?
As being validated and authentic to their struggle, to
right?
The black man's struggle, to the plight of how
yes.
brothers operated, right?
Very much.
Because they were like, oh, like, well, actually, like, Ian and da-da-da-da, like, you know, this is what they're going through, like, and they will feel like they have a higher understanding than other white peers.
Right, like, oh, I just made it to level 4.
Like, exactly. I have graduated. Now I got my PhD on how black folks have this type of experience in Portland. Right. When at the end of the day you don't know shit. Right. You just happen to talk to someone who gave you some very high level answers. Right. Because they don't trust you enough and they understand that you wouldn't truly understand at the end of the day.
Yeah. Damn.
So when it comes to me have the opportunity to write about you or Ian or anyone who any one of our BIPOC brothers and sisters who are in the coffee industry, whether they are owner, whether they're a barista, whether they're a roaster, I mean, like, it's already understood that they know that I know what they're experiencing, what they're going through. We
don't have to go through the backstory of
we don't have to go through we don't need like a 30-minute we don't need like a 30-minute feel out session where we're trying to figure out like get comfortable with each other and whatnot. Like it's already understood, but it's understood because I visit these shops. Right. It's understood because before you even thought about writing the piece. Yeah, I was already in there. I was just in there taking pictures, saying what's up.
That's right. Man, cheers to that. Thank you for taking the time. Yeah, appreciate it.